eat, I hope, because it's always about the food, even though I love you, Dottie. If you need water, we don't do water bottles anymore, so you can just grab a cup and go. It's filtered water and it's cold, so feel free to go use the cooler over there. We're trying to be more environmentally conscious, okay? That's what we're trying to do. A couple of things. Did everyone get our July, August newsletter?
Yes.
Okay, so make sure you go through it because a lot of the instructors are taking July off. You'll notice their days, it's kind of looking weird. And also for our yoga teacher, you know that Bonnie has retired. So just know that we are in the midst of finding someone. We have 3 or 4 candidates. We're trying to figure out where we want to go with this. Hopefully before the fall we will hire someone. But as you all know, Bonnie was spectacular, and I know replacing her is going to be challenging, but it may be a different kind of person, but we're going to make sure that they love to work with seniors and they understand the difference between regular yoga and yoga for seniors. So we're really working hard on that, just so you all know. We also have been interviewing for COA nurse, as you have heard, if you read my... Did everyone read my newsletter? No! It's on the front page.
I'm losing a nurse.
So we're looking for a nurse. We did actually do a lot of interviews. We were down 1 candidate, and she decided she wanted to work full time. So now we're back to square one, which is fine. You know what? I'd rather wait a few months and get the right person than to get the wrong person. So we're going to take our time. This is the way I feel about yoga too. We have a great staff here and a great group. So we take our time when we hire. So just so everyone knows, it's got to be the right person. So remember, we are opened on Monday, July 3rd. Okay, I'm not going to be here because I offered it the day off to my staff. They didn't want it. I'm like, okay, I'm taking it off. But there are absolutely no programs here because all the instructors wanted the day off. So, but it'll be quiet. But if it's really hot, come get a cup of coffee, iced coffee. We'll have everything here. We are closed on Tuesday for July 4th, and then we start in full swing on Wednesday. So just so everyone knows, that's what's going on. So now I want to introduce you. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? No. Okay. So Pam works in the clerk's office. She's wonderful. When I can't find Dottie, I harass Pam. But I usually can find Dottie. We work very closely together, and I really mean this from my heart and my head. We are very blessed to have this kind of a clerk in our town. She cares passionately about the seniors, seriously. And whenever there's an issue or a conflict or something happening, we work together, and you know that. I mean, we're on the phone. I always like to tell people, they can't escape me because I have their cell phones. So even if she's not there, I know how to reach her. We're very blessed, and Dottie, thank you so much for coming today. We love having you here. And I love doing Community Spotlight. I'm so glad you all came. I just think it's really important that you all know, like in the fall, we're going to have the police and the fire department in here. Earlier, we had the finance department. I think it's important that you know these are the people who are serving you, and this is what they do. So that's why we're doing this, and we will continue to do this for each of the departments. Welcome. Thank you for coming, and I leave this to you.
Thank you for having me. You're one of my favorite groups of people. I really enjoy working with the seniors. I gave everybody just a little bit of a handout that I put together, and as you see, there's a picture of me. That was quite a long time ago. Is it in there? So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit, well, first about myself. So I've lived in Westwood for 27 years, and I have 5 daughters and 10 grandchildren. So when I'm not at work, I'm pretty busy with the kids, trying to make up for time that I'm not home during the week and babysit, and I'm sure you all know that stuff. The phone rings, can you help me out? And before you know it.
Can you speak a little louder?
Yes, I'm sorry. I did begin working in the town in 2001. I worked for Veteran Services. And then in 2007, when my girls were getting a little bit older, I was looking for a full-time job, and somebody said, oh, why don't you go for the town clerk's job? And I said, well, what does that entail? And they said, well, you have to run for an election. And I said, oh, no way. I'm not a politician. But I ended up running, and I was very fortunate that I was able to be elected. So I've been elected since. And this is, aside from my family, this is really my passion. I really love serving the town. I wanted to go through a little bit about the town clerk. I'm sure, you might think of me as, me working elections, but there's a lot more that the office entails. The history, give you a little bit of the history of the clerk, that it's one of the oldest offices in municipal government. It was established in colonial times, and the settlers were aware of the importance of keeping accurate written records of their agreements and actions, including grants of land, regulations governing animals, the collection of taxes, and the expenditure of town funds. One of the earliest statutory duties imposed by the General Court on town clerks was the recording of births, deaths, and marriages. Since at that time the General Court has formalized by statute many of the duties that were first delegated by vote of town and then added. By 1692, the town clerk was required to enter and record divisions of land and orders of the selectmen, as well as all town votes, orders, and grants. Now, everybody's listening to me. I'm going to have Pam pass this around. So when we talk about historical records, we preserve all the town records, and we've got a book of births from 1897. So if you want to just flip through, it's really interesting to see what the occupations were there, some of the names we're hearing again. But it's really nice to kind of look at the history. Also, warrants, we directed warrants to the constable for collection of taxes. They were to be signed by the assessors and again the town clerk. And then the General Court between 1742, we're going way back to 1756, made the town clerk responsible for receiving and producing, if necessary, to substantiate a person's voting rights, the list of each inhabitant's property value, administering and recording oaths of office taken by any town officials. And by 1776, the town clerk was empowered to call town meetings to elect selectmen if a majority of the selectmen had moved from the town or were absent in the service of the United States.
Just wanted to show everybody this. It's very heavy. And it's just, this is just one of the records from, this was from 1897 to 1917. Wow. And these were all the births that were recorded in.
And when I started, they were all just in envelopes. So I took them and we had them preserved in that special paper. We still have all the originals, but nobody can touch those. They're too fragile. So this way here, and believe it or not, we still have a lot of people that are doing genealogy that are looking for those records, and we have them, which is great. It's great. There's another we'll show you that a little bit later, but there's another old book that I brought as well. Now, the town clerk has more frequent contact with the public than any other town officer and is consistently called upon to provide information not only about my office, but the rest of town government as well. I'm sure when you make a phone call to town hall, who do you call? I'm just curious. Town clerk, yeah. So we get calls from, trash wasn't picked up, street wasn't plowed, just an assortment. PM answers a lot of the phone calls, and
Birth certificates, death certificates, for every little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then people also don't remember where they were married, and if they were married, let's say in Westwood, they think their marriage certificate is here, but that's not necessarily true. It's where you filed intentions. So it's for a lot of people it's frustrating because we have 351 cities and towns, and if you think your records are here and they're not, we usually send them to Vital Records who can find it for them, or we call the neighboring towns. A lot of times, if people think it's in Westwood, it may be in Norwood or it may be in Dedham. So we always like that when we're able to find, where people's records are, because it's important. And so perhaps more than any public official, the town clerk symbolizes stability and continuity of local government. Prior to 1915, all town clerks in Massachusetts were elected at the annual town meeting, but now in some communities, clerks are appointed.
Dottie, can you talk louder?
Yes.
Right here,
Okay.
All right? Yeah.
Okay. And I should talk how I talk to my children.
You want a microphone?
Yeah, if you have a microphone, that might be
We have
good.
to bring it over there. Give me a minute.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of clerks in Massachusetts are still elected. I am actually still an elected clerk, and it's by our charter. So
Wait until she.
you want to, okay. Okay, so as I was saying, there's not too many, well, there's still quite a few elected clerks in Massachusetts, and cities and towns are trying to change that. They're trying to change charters so that the clerk is appointed. I don't know what will happen here in Westwood, but I am elected until, I have tenure until I'm 70, so we'll see how long that is. And, you know, interestingly enough, we have the town clerk's position in Westwood. It's very unique where I'm only the 5th town clerk in the history of Westwood, and some of the familiar names were Willie Baker. Everybody recall that name? He was clerk from 1897 until 1931. And then Ellen Damrell, 1932 to 1955, and Florence Tripp. Anybody?
Yes.
Florence Tripp?
I'm Florence.
Oh, yeah, okay. I wish I had pictures of them. And she was 1955 to 1974. And then, of course, you know, Edie McCracken, who was wonderful. I followed in her footsteps, and she was a clerk from 74 until 2007. The town clerk duties are varied and many. So we're the chief election official. We licensing agent. We license people. I think a lot of people just think, oh, the town clerk, they just license dogs and shuffle paper. No, it's not like that at all. We licensing agent, by that, dogs. We license fuel storage permits. So like a gas station that has a tank, we have to ensure that that's registered on an annual basis. The business certificates, so anybody in town that owns a business, or even if you, oh, did you want to come in? If you open a business in town and you're not incorporated, you have to file a business certificate, doing business as. It doesn't give anybody a right to a license to operate a business. It just lets the consumer know that, you know, so-and-so has a business in town, and if you need to contact them, we have their information. So we usually do about 100 of those annually. Burial permits, so, you know, we don't like to hear about that, but we're born and then we go, and so we issue burial permits as well, and raffle permits. So raffle permits those are a little sticky because you really need to be a nonprofit organization in order to have a raffle permit. So sometimes people will just think, you know, it's okay, I want to have a raffle off, you know, even they've done it at the high school, you know, during basketball games, but unless you have a permit, you really should not be. And, you know, again, I hate to say it, but it's another way for the state. It's a process. You file for the permit. It's only $10, but we have to ensure that you're registered with the state and that you're in compliance with your tax returns. And you have to pay whatever the earnings are, the receipts from that raffle, you have to pay 5%. The organization. So, you know, if it's going to be something that's, you're not going to make a lot of money on your raffles, I always suggest a silent auction. You don't need a raffle permit for a silent auction. And physician permits too, the physician license. So when a new physician comes into town, they have to file with us a registration. So we have their information on file. We also do the annual town census, which I hope everybody here returned it. Did you all return your census? You're always a good group that returns it right away. It's unfortunate because basically, you know, it's for safety purposes. You know, we want our fire and police department to know who's living in these homes, voter registration, grant money, and things like that. So it is really important for people to return the annual town census. I am a justice of the peace, so that means if anybody would like to get married again, just, you know, give me a call and we can arrange that. And also public information officer. So what that means is that we have all kinds of information and people call us and they usually put in a public record request. So people, you know, it's continuous, especially around election time. The big elections, the presidential, we get requests daily. People want to know who's registered to vote, and then after the election, who voted, you know, just a lot. And, you know, and if somebody's having, let's say, a hard time with a decision, if they filed a special permit and they're not happy with it, they may want to know, well, I want all the correspondence between the departments. So people are asking for it, emails and everything else. So that's why we say emails are public record, so everybody always be careful what you put on an email because you can't take it away. And again, like where we preserved all the records. So as you could see these books here, the modern books, the books that we do now, it's all computer based except for marriages. And we print them off. We have to send the record copy to the state. And then we print them off and we have them all in books that are bound very similar to that. So right now we've got a couple of books that are off to our person who binds it. So it just makes them, we need them forever. So it keeps them on good archive paper and it keeps a good collection of everything by date. So it's a good thing that we have to do. So vital records, birth. So all the births that occur for a Westwood resident come into our office. So we have to register them. Also, if it's an at-home birth, which we've had, over the years since I've been here, probably 2 or 3, but those do occur. So when those occur, we actually have to be the first person to create the record. We have to get everything from the midwife and put all those records together so the child has a record of birth. We also do out of Commonwealth births, and what that means is if there's an adoption like in another country, people will come in and they'll come in with all their adoption information and we'll create a record. It's still not the same as their original birth certificate, but it's something that they can use when they need a driver's license and things like that. We also record all deaths that occur in Westwood, as well as if a death occurred outside of Westwood, but you're a Westwood resident, we file those here too. And marriages. So we seem to get people filing marriages from all over the state. And I think because we never say no to people, during COVID we did so many because no other offices were open. So we'd have to meet people outside in the parking lot, gloves, masks, but these couples had plans and, they had a hard time getting somebody to actually let them file intention. So we did so many of those, and we did weddings too. Weddings were usually outside, and they were always outside. And we had one wedding where there was, I think it was probably 20 people. Everybody was masked. And then at the end of it, they start playing music and they're dancing, and we do it in front of the police station, and the belt comes off. I go, oh, what's going on there? So that was kind of a funny one. We do get a lot of really funny ones, but and that's nice too. I've married some of the police officers here, which is really nice, and so that's a nice thing we do here. We're mandated. Over 90% of the activity that we do is mandated by the law. We have over 450 functions in the Mass General laws that fall under the authority of the town clerk. Voter registration is also a big one in Pam. Pam helps us immensely with voter registration, does a great job. So every morning she comes in and from online registration, there's a queue, probably, what would you say, 20?
Yeah, I'd say at least 20. On a busy day, 50. Yeah.
So what Pam has to do is she also has to look for duplicates because there's a couple of different ways now to register to vote. So one is in person. You can come into the town clerk's office and fill out, Pam has a card, there's a card right here. Or this is a form, so you fill out this form. And let's just say that you decide you want to change your party registration. You still would have to fill out a form, or you could even do it online. And a lot of times on the census form, you'll see your party listed. We don't really list it anymore, but we had, and people will cross it off and put the party that they want to be in. And you can't change voter information on a census. You have to actually fill out a form with your signature to make any changes like that. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And you can also go online. So now you go onto the Secretary of State's website. If you can read it, and I'm sorry, that's really small, there's a link there that you can go right on. You can even make any changes as well. And then register your motor vehicles. So a law came into effect last year, And any transaction, no matter what transaction you do with the registry of motor vehicles, is automatically, we're sent an automatic voter registration, even if you're registered to vote. And what's happening too, and Pam can attest to this, is that if people misspell their name or the registry puts it in wrong, then we get a duplicate. So Pam's been really good, catching duplicate. So you might be registered as Mary Ann, but maybe your name is Jane Mary. And so you put the right name, but so now I've got two. You're really the same person, but you've got the same date of birth. So we're really diligent on catching that. We want our voter records clean. We don't want any duplicate records. So we don't have a problem with that. But it has become an issue throughout Massachusetts with the RMV really taking over this. It's not really their forte. Hopefully that'll change. Elections. Elections are fun, and we know we've got Barbara here that works elections. Anybody else here? Elaine helps with elections. And anybody else, if you have some time and you want to help with elections, it's fun, right, Barbara?
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, good. Elaine, right? Great. Yeah, so it's governed again by federal, state, and local laws. So the local laws would be that our elections are all the last Tuesday in April. We have nomination papers for offices that are available. I get those out the second week in January. And people have so many days. We have a calendar of dates to return the nomination papers. And then once you return your nomination papers, unless you withdraw by a certain date, your name is going to appear on the ballot. So that's what I have to do. I have to make sure that the name is spelled correctly, the address. You don't put parties on a local ballot. And the way the order is incumbents first. So somebody who's running for re-election will be first on the ballot, and then all of the new people will go afterwards alphabetically. And that is, we need 3 sets of eyes, myself, Pam, and our assistant, Brooke. We all take a really close look at it, because once you get them printed and they come back and there's a mistake, can't use them. It has to be perfect. You wouldn't want to be a candidate and see, oh my God, they spelled my name wrong. So we have to be really diligent about making sure that that's 100% correct. And the federal and state elections are a little bit easier. We don't have to print the ballots, but when the ballots come in, so on that level, if you're going to run for a state office or even president, they're starting to get all that ready right now, you get your nomination papers through the Secretary of State's office. And then as you see people standing at the grocery stores, they want a signature, they'll have a Westwood list, a Dedham list. So anybody from Westwood, the Westwood papers come to us. And that's, again, something else that Pam helps with, and that's a lot of work too. So when you're signing those papers, make sure you sign it clearly so that we can see and put your address. So, for example, if we see a signature there and it's just a scratch, we take out your voter registration card and we look at it to compare the signature. And if the signature's not the same, we reject it. If you put just italics, let's say that your spouse puts their name first and the address, and then you're underneath and you just put the little italics and you don't write out your street, we can't count that either. So it's, the laws are really strict about all of that stuff. And you know what, it should be that way because it needs to be consistent and it needs to be fair for everybody. We also, when you go, in your handouts, there's a picture of our machine. And our machines are great. I know there's been so much controversy about machines being hacked. There's absolutely no way that the voting machines can be manipulated or hacked. And Barbara can tell you that. They work on memory cards. They're not internet-based, so there is absolutely no way. And we are so diligent about people that check in to make sure they're registered voters. If they're not a registered voter, for example, when you don't return your census, you're made inactive. So what that means is you have an I next to your name. And that means, well, you didn't return your census. Maybe you don't live in Westwood anymore. And so you have to show an ID with proof that you still live in Westwood, and you have to sign an affidavit. And then, we can never deny you your right to vote. But if you don't have something with the current address, we do require that. So that's that's another way that we check that we know we have a clean voter list. And another thing people will say, oh, somebody can come in twice. Nobody can come in twice to vote. You're checked off on a list. And again, the election staff, and really kudos to the election people like Barbara and Elaine, who they make sure they check and make sure, and if there's any doubt, they call me over. And now we're in a new location, which is great. We're at the high school, and all 5 precincts are there. So it gives me the opportunity and my staff to be there to answer questions and help out. There's also if you have any issues with sight, or even it's basically with sight and just looking at the print. It's called the AutoMark, so it's a handicap accessible machine where you can mark your ballot. So it will make the font larger. There's even a headphone you can hear, it speaks. And I urge people to use that if you really have, I know I can't see anymore without my glasses. So the print is kind of small on the ballot. So if you need any assistance like that, the machine is there. There's also something new that just came out this year with the state. And it's if somebody can't mark the ballot, if you're voting by mail, if you can't mark your ballot, there's a new way that you can do it. We take your information, and you're set up in an account, and everything again is secure, and it gives you the mechanism to be able to vote without using a pencil or a stylus. And we had one person that did it, and it was great. He voted, marked his ballot electronically, and the ballot, I printed it off, and we were able to count the ballot. So again, if you or any of your friends that might be able to use this, and please let me know and we can set you up on it. And what's in our custody? We have a lot in our custody: town meeting, town meeting records, town census. So we have to keep the town census. We have to keep it for a year, and then we can discard it. We shred them. Annual street listings. So the annual street listing, and they used to call it the nosy book. Everybody familiar with the nosy book? With the nosy book. So basically what it is, it's all of everybody that's responded to the census, their name, if 17 or older, and we can't put public safety in there. Those are restricted. All of those addresses with the occupants are listed in this book. But it's obsolete after it's printed because people move. But for the most part, people like that to see that book. And then we keep that too. So if somebody needed, for some reason, you were getting a passport, or for some reason you needed a residency letter, that's how we get the residency letters. We look back, even somebody that might have lived in Westwood 50 years ago, we go back to the old records and say, oh, John Smith was here January 1st, 1980. And then we can give them a letter attesting that they lived in Westwood. We do a lot of birth, death, and marriage certificates. We actually did, I believe, almost 2,000 last year. So people, you need a certified copy of any type of record in order for, insurance or any legal matter. Certified copy of your birth certificate. Most places won't take a copy. A certified copy of a death certificate, and then a certified copy of a marriage certificate. We also, so when you are doing something to your home and you need a special permit, you go to either the Zoning Board of Appeals or the Planning Board, you file an application, and then once a decision is made, so at one time all the applications and all the paperwork were filed in our office. Now it's all done through view permit, so it's done electronically, but I still have to sign off on them when I look at those records electronically. Sign off, town clerk certification, and then once the town clerk certifies, then the clock starts ticking. And then once either the Zoning Board of Appeals or the Planning Board makes a decision, we get the decision in the office, and after 20 days, the 21st day, you come in with that decision, and we stamp it to say either there was no appeals, or if there was an appeal, you run your you do the work at your own risk. It's not encouraged, but that's another thing that we do. Let's see. Any legal filings, so anything legal against the town, any boards, we get the summons in my office. So we stamp them and then forward copies to the people that are on that summons. All public records basically are in our possession. So on the professional registration, so it's any, and I touched on this a little bit, any physician, podiatrist, optometrist, they have to present a certificate of registration before they open their practice, and even electrolysis. The business certificates, and I did touch upon that, we do over 100 a year. We also file discontinuance of businesses and amendments, so somebody changes the name. We just had, anybody get their nails done in Westwood? So we had Diamond Nails. Anybody go to Diamond Nails? Elaine? Okay, so they just changed their name. So they came in, they changed ownership. So they came in and they amended the name. They have a new name, Westwood
Nails.
Westwood
Nails Shop? I don't know.
Westwood Nails Bar.
Bar.
Westwood Nails Bar. Came in today to do that. And they're good for 4 years, and they have to be renewed every 4 years. We send them out a notice that, you're up for renewal. And any new businesses, it's really any new businesses that open in town. I put on your little handout, Playables was a fairly new one. Anybody try that? Anybody like that? I know the young kids love that. It's yogurt in a bowl, I think. Something like that. We also file utilities, so poles, the select board has a hearing if they're going to put in a new pole, if any conduits, any new for Verizon, anything to do with poles and conduits. We also have to, they get voted, there's a public hearing with the select board, it gets voted upon by the select board, and then I get all the paperwork. I've got to send something out to the utility companies, it's usually Eversource, and they pay a small fee for the filing. So that's another thing too. Keeper of the town's history, so we have everything from 1897 documents, which is really interesting to look at everything. The only thing is that a lot of it is in cursive. What do you think about that? And, I don't know how much the young people today are doing cursive or learning it, but, we're going to have a problem later on if they can't read cursive. When we do preserve the records, we have to make sure they're binded right. And we adhere to state retention schedules. So this is another thing too. We're still paper. And there's so many records that we're under the guise of the public records law that we just can't get rid of. Like if there's meeting minutes, there should be minutes for every public meeting. Those have to be stored. Those are forever. We have appointment slips. People come in, they are appointed in election. People know that. You sign an appointment slip. That's a forever. We have to keep that forever. There's, what else? We have, and then there's also records where they have a short retention, like, for example, election. So for any state or federal election, all of the ballots that have been cast have to be saved for 22 months. The voting list, 22 months. We can destroy the ballots, but for the voting list, we have to get permission. So also open meeting law. So that's another area that we're responsible for. So any meeting that the town has, they have to file their meeting notice with the town clerk. And the law says 48 hours before, not including weekends or holidays. Those actual we do it paper, and also we do it on our website. But those paper copies have to be saved for a year. And we have to write to public records in order to have permission to get rid of those. So there's quite a process with that. We do an annual audit of all of our records. A few years ago, our records needed to be organized. So we had a company come in, we have archives, and we've put everything's in boxes. So the departments know there's a database so that they know, what they need. Let's say payroll needs, 1988. They know what box it is and they can go in there, which is good. And they come in every year. So what they do is records that can be destroyed, we put them aside, we get permission, and then we have a shredder come in. So we kind of move things around and new boxes are put in. So we have a good system here. We actually are going to start another system. It's called DocuWare. So that is scanning of all of our records so that there's a place for, instead of, like right now, it seems like we have a lot of requests for, if people are doing work on their homes, they want to see what was done 30 years ago. And if there was a filing in there, so we go to the archives, we pull it all out, we copy it. So we're going to try to have all of those in kind of a public portal so that you could just put an address and things are going to pop up so you'd have information. That's a work in progress. Vital records, let's see, I told you about that. And again, the fun part is the marriages. That's a lot. And the new babies. When the new babies are born, we send them a certified copy, complimentary. And anything else is, all certified copies are $10 a copy.
Regarding births of children, I had mine at Newton Wellesley, but we lived in Westwood. If I was looking for their birth certificate,
You could come to Westwood.
I can come to you?
Yes, yep, you can. They just revamped a system. The Vital Record had a brand new system a few years ago because it was all paper, now it's electronic, and we print them. And the whole purpose of it was for you to be able to go to any city or town and get it, but it didn't work. It didn't happen. So you could go to the hospital, the town, the hospital is in, but it's also, as long as you're a resident at the time, it will be here as well. Yep, will save you a lot of time. The marriage couples, that's always fun too. We have people come in, and now we have a system online so people can actually apply and put all their information online, and then we set up an appointment for them. They come in. They have to come in because they have to take an oath. They have to be 18. I think Pam, you got a call, somebody was 17 that wanted to get married, and they were from another state, so they were calling around state to state to state. And there's no going to court and changing that. And actually, it's 18, and it was 18 with parental permission, and now you don't need the parental permission. Something new came up on that. So we do that. They have to wait for they come in, they take an oath, they wait for 3 days, then they can come back in, get their license. It's good for 60 days, so they have to get married in that time span within 60 days. We really like people to give us a date so we can have the certificate all set for them. And there's a different way that people are getting married now. So some people go to churches, some people have justice of the peace, and some people do one-day solemnizations. Has anybody ever heard of that? So that could be your brother, your aunt, your child could marry you. They have to apply through the Secretary of State, and it usually takes a few weeks to get that, and they get a certificate, and it just says they're allowed to solemnize the wedding, the date, the couple's names, and the place. We seem to get a lot of those lately. And then there's also another thing people do is it's some kind of ministry that you can go online and pay for a certificate as well. We always like when people get married at town hall, though. It's fun. Usually. We used to do cemetery records, so that's in it. We have a lot of books with cemetery records, our 2 cemeteries here. We do, we file any lawsuits against the town, bankruptcies. If somebody's going bankrupt, we had one on Route 1, I think it was the outdoor store that went bankrupt a few years ago. So they have to go through, they have to give me all their inventory. And it's, there's a cost per page. They have to file it with us, and then there's a bond that they have to take out as well. So that's another process that we get involved in. Another thing is conflict of interest. So if you are a municipal employee, with the exception of election staff, or you are on a board or committee, you have to file an ethics exam. You have to do an ethics online test every 3 years. And then you also get a summary. So, you know, and most of it is, it's all common sense, but it's just things that you have to be aware of being a municipal employee. In open meeting law, we have to give everybody a statement of open meeting law so they understand what you can and can't do in meetings. You know, there's certain way meetings are run. Right now, we still are doing Zoom meetings, which, you know, is good for people that can't get out of the house. They can watch the meetings. We also have to, we file all the roads that are accepted at town meeting. Let's see what else we have here. Public records. So everything pretty much is public, and also all, I don't know if you know, but all vital records are public except birth records. If the parents weren't married at the time of the birth, those are restricted. So the only people that could get that is whoever's on the birth certificate, and they have to show an ID. Same thing with marriages. Marriages, if your parents weren't born at the time of your birth, then that's restricted. Or if you're public safety, those are restricted. We also, we swear in elected officials, give the oath of office to any new police officers, chiefs. Let's see what else. Yeah, we don't really do, so child support liens, I haven't done any of those. We don't really get those here. Tax liens, vendor, transient vendor applications. I don't know, is there anything I missed? Yeah, so, you know, there's a list, actually. Right here, there's over 451 sections of the Mass General Law that we're responsible for.
Is that?
Yeah, yep, there is.
Holy moly, girlfriend.
There is. You know, and I guess everything is important, but the most important is really elections, you know, being the chief election officer, because you don't want to make mistakes on elections. You want to make sure everything's perfect. The other thing that I just wanted to mention was it's the town seal. So you know the town seal, that's on everything you see when we were incorporated, the tree. So that was, do you know what that is? The town, it's the town pond, town pound.
Is that where it came from?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, I thought I had that in my, where's, yeah, in here? No, I thought I had it in here. History of the town hall. So anyways, yeah, the town pound, so that was back in the 1800s. The picture here, that when the animals got loose, somebody would put them in there and the owners would come and fetch them later on. So that's how we got our seal. It's a picture of that big oak tree. So as you can see, the town clerk's office is very busy, and I probably am missing some things that we do. Elaine?
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, thank you, Elaine. Does anyone have any questions for Dottie? I think this was great and complete.
Yeah, I
Thank you
mean,
so
I know
much.
I might have repeated a lot, but, you know,
I'm sure you did great.
I do want to show you one thing before you go, though.
Okay, so she's gonna show you one more thing.
So this right here. So this is the annual town report, and when I came, there's nothing you can really do with these. So this here is like an archival plastic, and this here.
Started?
So this started in 1897.
Oh my God.
1897, when Willie Baker was a town clerk, and let's see here. I'm just looking here, like the town office's salary,
The town clerk made $100.
$100. Yep.
Whoa. You can't even go out to dinner for that now.
Oh, Janet?
Janet.
Janet, you have a question?
Janet, you have a question?
Yeah, when we cross the street, we have a sign that says, you know, you're supposed to stop and let us go. But it hasn't worked out that way.
Oh, you mean pedestrian crossing?
You're right.
Yeah.
And I was questioning somebody to get a light. Because,
When we meet with the police and fire department,
yeah.
that's when you should be talking about this. Because those are the people who do.
Well, you know what, the next time, call me and we'll get it over to the safety, the police department.
Call her, she'll deal with it.
Yeah, we have,
Very good.
No, because, you know,
we have Officer Conley, that's the safety officer now,
we used
so,
to have a police officer, but we don't have that anymore.
Okay.
yeah.
And every time you stand there, they should know enough for them to stop, but they don't, they just keep on going.
Okay.
All Dottie?
Yeah, we'll help you with that for sure.
It's like 5 or 10 minutes before you get away.
No, it's great. These are the kind of questions that we do community spotlight.
So this is another kind of oh, yoga?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, so fires, the department responded to 3 alarms during the past 10 months in 1897. So how do you like that?
I think it's great that you made $100.
Yeah. So, yeah, so all of these things are in Town Hall. If you ever want to come in one day and take a look, you're more than welcome to.
So can we have a round of applause for Dottie? This is fabulous.
Thank
And I
you.
have to say, we're very blessed to have you as our town clerk.
Thank you.
We
Well,
really appreciate everything you do. And look, there was a question that I couldn't answer that Dottie could answer. Thank you.
Great, we'll help you. And I also want to thank all of you because I'm here, you know, I'm elected, so I work for you. I don't work for the select board, I don't work for the town administrator, I work for you. So whatever, you know, you need, our office is here to help you out.
And they really
And I
need that.
appreciate, yes.
Did you mention that you could also notarize
Oh,
documents without a fee?
Thank you very much, yes. So we do, we notarize documents, and the only thing is we can't do real estate transactions, so if you're gonna be buying a new house, we can't do that, but, and, you know, we really don't do anything super legal, like power of attorney or wills, but anything else, give us a call and, you know, and if we need to do something, you know, we can definitely help you out, for
And
sure.
everybody sent in their census, right?
Yes.
I love it. Alex, you're so good.
Yes. And oh, one other thing, dog license. So that's another thing. I don't know if you know, if you have a dog, if you're 70 or older, you're allowed 1 dog per household at no fee. So just so that you know that. So some people don't license their dogs because they feel like they don't go out. But everybody does in case the dog ever got loose or, you know, we want to make sure that the dog has been vaccinated and safe. So just
thank
keep
you
that in
again,
mind.
Dottie.
Thank you for
Dan,
having me here.
coming. We love you guys. Thank you all for joining us. I never
Oh,
thanked
oh,
Cable.
thank you.
Thank you so much. We love working with Westwood Media Cable. They're just amazing. They're a really great partner. So thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte.
All right. There's plenty of food if you want to eat. Otherwise, we're going to start breaking down.